Dude, you're a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And you get away with it, I guess, because they're hookers, and so far nobody's... What?
Is this Howard?
Yeah. Hello?
Imagine you're doing your usual radio show, laughing with your co-hosts, cracking jokes, reading wild fan mail. And suddenly, a man calls in and claims he's killed over a dozen women. What do you even say to that? That's exactly what happened on The Howard Stern Show back on August 13th, 1997.
Prostitutes, and he's wondering why he's doing it.
Oh, God.
So maybe he thinks I have an answer. Is this Ed? Ed?
No, this isn't Ed.
Oh.
You haven't killed any prostitutes?
No, I never said my name was Ed.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
What name do you use?
You can call me Clay.
Clay?
A man identifying himself only as Clay called in and calmly confessed to murdering more than 12 sex workers around New Orleans. At first, the crew didn't know whether to laugh, hang up, or call the cops. But Howard, known for leaning into controversy instead of running from it, kept him on the line. And it only got creepier from there. Clay didn't sound angry. He didn't sound guilty. He sounded controlled, methodical. And when Howard accidentally called him Ed instead of Clay, he snapped, not with rage, but with a cold correction. That one moment said a lot. It wasn't just about the name. It was about dominance, control. A man who didn't want to be misunderstood because, in his twisted mind, he had already perfected his story. The alias Clay may have been fake, but the details he shared, chillingly specific. Names, methods, reasons, things that hadn't been public. It wasn't just a prank call, at least not one anyone could easily dismiss, especially when the FBI got involved afterward, trying to trace where it came from. So, was this guy for real? Was Clay a cold-blooded killer just casually confessing live on air? That's where the story starts, but it doesn't end there. Because just when the police thought they had their man, things took a bizarre turn. So, who exactly was Clay? And what did he say that made investigators take this call seriously?
We'll have sex with him first?
Yes, and
And then what, you strangled him?
once.
How else did you kill him?
Well, a few times, actually most times with a hammer.
And where do you do this primarily?
I've done it twice in a parking garage, and then the rest of the times on the side of the road.
And you're from the New Orleans area?
Yes.
And how, I mean, what do you beat them to death with a hammer?
Man.
It usually only takes once, and
Dude, you gotta have a lot of anger in you.
yes.
When Howard Stern asked him how many people he had killed, Clay didn't hesitate. He claimed at least 12, maybe more. His victims? Mostly sex workers, many of them trans women, living on the fringes of society. People no one really noticed when they disappeared. That's what made it easier for him. He said it bluntly. They don't get reported. They don't matter. And his methods? That's where it gets even darker. Clay said he'd often have sex with them first. Then, without warning, he'd strangle them, using whatever was nearby, cords, belts, or bare hands. But his preferred method? He admitted to bludgeoning victims with a hammer, over and over again, cold, calculated, detached. He described dumping bodies in parking garages, roadside ditches, and hidden spots around New Orleans, particularly in an area locals nicknamed Swagger Town. Most of those areas weren't well patrolled, and by the time a body was found, evidence was long gone. But the creepiest part?
When you killed your first woman.
16.
And you must be a powerful kind of guy, big guy.
I wasn't then.
Right. And when you killed your first one, did you go in there knowing you were going to kill her, or it just sort of happened?
I knew I really had it planned out. You know, I wanted to do the whole sending clues.
Right.
Oh, yeah, are you
To
in...
baffle people, but it turned out no one noticed for a long time.
Right. Like you killed her on the side.
Clay said his first kill happened back in 1991, when he was only 16 years old. He described it with eerie pride, as if it were a twisted rite of passage. A young girl, later believed to be Danielle Britton, was found murdered that same year in New Orleans. Clay hinted that he had left behind clues for the cops to find, but they missed them. Almost like he wanted recognition, like it wasn't just about killing, it was about being seen. And when Howard started pressing about why he did it, Clay didn't flinch. It wasn't about sex, he said. It was about power, about the thrill. He wanted to see fear in their eyes. That's what gave him the rush. He showed no remorse. He even mocked the victims, calling them names and laughing at how easily they trusted him. He was calm, collected, and way too comfortable describing those brutal acts. When asked about his childhood, he denied any abuse, but casually mentioned starting fires when he was younger. That's a big red flag. Psychologists link arson, animal cruelty, and bedwetting in youth to later violent behavior. Clay fits that mold too perfectly. At this point, Howard wasn't the only one rattled. Listeners were calling in. The FBI was listening, because if what Clay said was true, they were dealing with a textbook psychopath, and he was still out there. Clay didn't just kill at random. He was careful, deliberate. He went after street-based sex workers, not just because they were vulnerable, but because he knew no one would look too hard if they vanished. And sadly, back then, he was mostly right. He mentioned choosing victims who were alone, high, or simply desperate for a quick transaction. But here's the part that threw everyone off. He admitted to letting one woman go. Her name was Brenda, and according to Clay, this happened back in 1991, the same year as his first known murder. Why did he spare her? She reminded me of my fiancée, he said. Cold, detached, like it was a business decision. That's the terrifying part. Even in mercy, he sounded calculated.
Hard times gonna come calling, set you on your knees like the good Lord calling you. Hard times gonna come calling, put you back behind the wall.
Meanwhile, on the law enforcement side of things, the police were struggling. A task force was finally created in 1995, years after bodies had been piling up. But despite their efforts, progress was minimal. Too many victims, too few resources, and way too many missteps. At one point, the investigation went completely off the rails. Detectives began focusing on a man named Victor Gant, a black police officer who had once dated one of the victims. That connection, along with some circumstantial evidence, was enough to put him in the hot seat. But after months of scrutiny and intense pressure, DNA evidence cleared him completely. It turned out they were chasing the wrong man. Valuable time was lost, and the real killer was still out there. Then came a break that almost made sense. Russell Elwood. In 1994, Elwood was arrested near one of the dump sites. He wasn't just loitering. He was caught masturbating in his car, parked not far from where a body had been discovered. That was suspicious enough. But once investigators looked deeper, things got even weirder. Elwood fit the profile. White, transient, and worked odd jobs like a cab driver and photographer. He moved frequently and lived mostly out of cheap motels. Some detectives started connecting the dots. By 1999, Elwood was convicted for the murder of Cheryl Lewis, one of the many women who vanished under mysterious circumstances. But even with that conviction, authorities suspected he was responsible for more, maybe even all the victims linked to the so-called Clay killings. Still, there was one problem. Elwood never confessed to anything. And Clay? He vanished just as quickly as he appeared. So, were they the same person? Or was the real killer still hiding in plain sight? The moment Clay hung up, everything changed. That chilling call wasn't just radio shock jock fodder anymore. It caught the attention of the FBI. Behind the scenes, federal agents were already investigating a growing pattern of unsolved murders across Louisiana, and now this mystery caller seemed to know details that hadn't been made public. The FBI traced the call, but frustratingly, they couldn't lock down a real identity. Nothing definitively tied Clay to Russell Elwood, despite the circumstantial similarities. And yet, there were whispers. Elwood's own cellmates came forward and claimed he had confessed to more murders, far beyond the one he was convicted for. But those claims weren't enough for prosecutors. Without hard evidence, the rest of the alleged killings remained in the shadows. To this day, over 24 victims are believed to be connected to the so-called Storyville Slayer. Many of the bodies were found in such advanced stages of decomposition that they were never even identified, let alone properly investigated. These women, some of them transgender, all of them marginalized, were essentially forgotten by a system that failed them. And that's the real horror in this story.
Oh, yeah, so you didn't kill that girl?
No,
Because she wasn't a hooker.
no.
Right.
It's only hookers, though.
A lot of serial killers are only into hookers because they know, A,
Easy.
probably won't get caught, and B, they have some kind of anger toward hookers. Like, did you think your mom was a hooker or something?
No, Howard.
Your parents married and stay together and the whole thing?
Yeah.
Church-going people?
That'll do it.
Well, one of them, but
Yeah. Religious fanatics give birth to the most serial killers because they're so repressed.
yeah.
So there's no way I'm going to talk you into giving yourself up or anything, right?
No.
I shouldn't even waste my time. I know I'm going to get calls after this and people are going to go, Howard, how come you didn't catch him?
Has anybody ever been close to catching you?
No. No. Actually, someone, once when it was in the newspaper, someone joked to me, I know it was you, but, well, they were joking.
Right.
Yeah.
You think you might be gay?
Oh, I hope not.
Right, maybe you're a repressed homosexual? Were you ever molested?
No.
Despite Elwood's conviction, his involvement in the majority of the murders is still unproven. He denies being the voice behind Clay, and there's no conclusive proof tying him to the call or the full list of victims. So the question still haunts investigators, families, and true crime followers alike. Was Russell Elwood the serial killer hiding in plain sight, or just a convenient scapegoat? As for the call itself, Howard Stern admitted that, at first, he thought Clay was just another prankster trying to stir the pot on a live show. But as the conversation went on, Stern and his co-hosts grew visibly uncomfortable. Clay knew too much. His tone was too flat, too real. Eventually, even Stern started to believe they had spoken to a real-life serial killer on air. And the public? They were split right down the middle. Some believed it was all an elaborate hoax, just performance art on a controversial show. Others were convinced it was a genuine confession, broadcast live to millions. But here's what's undeniable. That call reignited attention to dozens of cold cases, forced law enforcement to revisit their files, and reminded everyone that sometimes the most horrifying truths don't come with background music or a warning. They come casually, in a voice that sounds just like yours or mine. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Was Clay telling the truth? Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life mysteries. And stick around, because next time, we're diving into another case that's even darker and more twisted than this one.